Donald Trump won, and I am very, very afraid that he might deport my mother-in-law. She entered illegally to the country, and she lives in a Street 4, number 47, apartment D, New York. I am very, very concerned. That's right behind the green apartment. Yeah.
I mean, hey, maybe this is why Latinos overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump.
I'm Hispanic and I vote for Mr. Trump. We vote for Mr. Trump.
Somebody said, is it just me or does this guy have some malicious motives? Somebody else said the reactions to this election just keep getting better. OMG, how will they ever find her?
Over the last 4 years, we've had nearly 10 million people flood this country. The idea that that's just a status quo that has to be lived with, and President Trump is not correct to be able to say, look, we shouldn't have let these people come in. It's too many people for our country to be able to absorb too quickly. We have the highest level of foreign-born people in the United States in the history of the country, but asking them to leave isn't allowed is kind of silly. It's not just a one-way ratchet where when Democrats are in control, people get to flood our country, and then when Republicans are in control, we just sit on our hands.
Who said President Trump isn't a man of his word, right? Because like it or not, this guy is hitting the ground running. He's not wasting a second of his time as he continues to build the people who will be a part of his administration for the next 4 years. And unlike President Joe Biden, he's not appointing his vice president as the border czar. In fact, this has actually raised concern from a lot of Democrats within the nation, especially since Vice President Kamala Harris is one of the biggest supporters of illegal immigrants entering our country. Now, just to give you guys an idea here, here's the difference between Kamala Harris and newly appointed border czar Tom Homan. Watch.
Up with education, down with deportation. Up with education, down with deportation.
I got a message to the millions of illegal aliens that Joe Biden's releasing our country in violation of federal law. You better start packing now.
We are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
I hear a lot of people say, the talk of a mass deportation is racist. It's threatening to the immigrant community. It's not threatening to the immigrant community. It should be threatening to the illegal immigrant community.
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there's. Families can be deported together.
You guys see the difference? And it's this vast difference between the two that's triggering the hosts of The View right now. Now, I'm guessing that they're going to be triggered daily for the next 4 years. So let's go ahead and hear them out while it's early, shall we? And I want you to listen to how ludicrous these hosts can get. Watch.
You realize, it's chilling what he just said. You realize that when he says, yes, families can be deported together, what he is saying is that U.S. citizens can be deported. What he is saying is if the parent is undocumented and they have U.S. citizen children or U.S. citizen spouse, or and you don't want to separate them, then let's deport the U.S. citizens. Look, Donald Trump won the electoral vote. He won. He's going to win the House. He won the Senate. For all effects and purposes, he's got the Supreme Court. They've given him immunity. This is what the country voted for. This is, a lot of people thought that when he talked about mass deportations, he wasn't being serious. I don't know how many times he had to say it for people to realize he was being serious. Well, if you thought he wasn't being serious.
Not sure if they were informed, but a majority of the country voted for this, right? The border crisis is one of the top concerns for Americans across all 50 states. For many, it was the deciding factor for why they voted for Donald Trump, even if they didn't actually like him personally. And the president has made it very clear that he was serious about this. Although a lot of people doubted Kamala Harris when she talked about it because she always loved an open border. It wasn't until this year when she suddenly changed her mind to try and win some votes. And I'm not sure how many times President Trump has to say it, but he's not against legal migration. That's not what he's against.
We want to have as many people come in as possible, but they have to come in legally. We don't want murderers. We don't want drug dealers. We don't want human traffickers. We don't want people from prison that are being let out after murdering somebody. We don't want to have that. We want to have great people come in. And that's the sad thing. So many people work to come in our country. They've worked for 10 years, they're getting ready, and then millions of people pour through the southern border. They fly them over in airplanes. Nobody knew that until about 9 months ago.
If you went through the proper legalities to enter in the United States, you have nothing to worry about, he says. He only has an issue with illegal immigration, the important term being illegal. And if an illegal immigrant had a child here in the country, would they prefer that the child be left in the United States, or should families be kept together? That's the big question that a lot of folks are having right now, because they're under this idea that they hold the moral high ground. But if they want families together, then deporting them all at once should not be an issue. It's like the rules and the laws don't seem to matter at all when they're talking. And here's where we can prove that they absolutely could not care less about the law, especially when it's detrimental to them or their allies. Watch.
Biden is in there for the next 2.5 months. And this is what I'm going to tell Joe. Joe, since they're talking smack about you anyways, you know what, baby, pardon Hunter.
Yeah.
Pardon Hunter, because America just pardoned a criminal.
Yes.
Who was convicted.
Yes.
Of felonies.
Yes.
America just elected a man who pardoned Jared Kushner's father.
Yeah.
Who set up his brother-in-law with a hooker and then sent the pictures to the sister because they were in the midst of a fight over the parents' money.
Yeah, can't follow that.
Well, whatever the flow chart is, it's nasty.
Exactly.
He's probably going to pardon some of the folks from January 6th, those insurrectionists. So you know what? It's your son. He probably wouldn't have been prosecuted if his last name wasn't Biden. Baby, you got 2.5 months. I'm good with you pardoning Hunter.
Do you agree with Anna Navarro here? Because this could literally just be them laying the groundwork for Hunter Biden to be pardoned. Even though President Joe Biden said months ago that he would not do such a thing. We'll actually see if Joe Biden holds true to his word, but we'll see. But it's not like that will be the first lie that he's told us, right? And why does she keep calling Biden his baby? Does anybody else find that a little bit weird, a little bit suspect? We also have to talk about how good of a son Hunter is, right? It's not like the laptop was real, right? It's not like 51 former intelligence officers lied right before the 2020 presidential election, probably altering the entire course of this nation as we know it. But like I said, guys, they may actually be planting the seeds right now so that we won't be surprised come January. It's something that we've actually talked about before, with many people expecting President Joe Biden to pardon his son before leaving office. But what do you guys think about that? Do you think Joe Biden's going to end up pardoning his son Hunter Biden before he leaves? But what's really got me perplexed here is why they're playing the fear tactics when it comes to mass deportation. From everything that we've seen and that we've heard, only illegal immigrants are expected to be sent back to their homes. So is this really that big of a concern? Now, speaking of homes, guys, we're hearing of a plan to help the homeless who continue to struggle on the streets. President-elect Donald Trump has just released an announcement regarding this huge move. Now, this is something that I covered in a previous video that I hope you guys watch right after this one. But as always, appreciate you guys hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. I'll see you guys on the next one.
Take celebrities no longer have influence. Let me prove it. So there are like 300 million people in this country. There are 150 million voters, give or take. And the combined social media followings of the people that endorsed Kamala, meaning Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Selena, Chelsea, Amy, everybody, like powerful people, Obama, Hillary, the combined social media, Jennifer Lopez, etc. The combined number is over 2 billion followers. So over 2 billion followers. And yes, of course, it's what votes matter and what really did it. But over 2 billion followers did not move the needle for 150 million voters. So that means it's spinning wheels, it's useless, it's a flex, and it doesn't even do anything.
The truth is, this is just an epic disaster. This is a $1 billion disaster. Jen O'Malley Dillon promised all of us that Harris would win. She even put videos out saying that Harris would win. I believed her. My donors believed her. And so they wrote massive checks. I feel like a lot of us were misled.
You guys are not going to believe what Oprah Winfrey just said about Kamala Harris's campaign. Now, we know that Democrats are wild spenders, right? We've seen it in the past few years with the Ukraine war, with our leaders just sending over billions of dollars while they ignore the needs of our own citizens right here in America. We've talked about how veterans are struggling, about the needs of those on Social Security, and yet we have all the money in the world when it comes to war. And this mindset, it seems to have rubbed off on the Kamala Harris presidential campaign. But just imagine having $1 billion and then somehow owing money afterwards. And I can even make this even worse. Her team is now asking for even more money. The election's over and they're still asking for your hard-earned cash. Watch.
Kamala Harris had put this out. She's soliciting donations now. She's also apparently trying to sell her list, but she's calling it the Fight Fund. So she wants people to donate to the Fight Fund. And you contrast that, you see it there highlighted, what Donald Trump said over the weekend, whatever we can do to help them during this difficult period, I would strongly recommend we as a party and for the sake of desperately needed unity do. We have a lot of money left over. What a contrast.
I thought that was perfect. I mean, it was just chef's kiss. I mean, it really was. I mean, you know, it was, and honestly, a lot of these left-wing groups seem to have this issue. I mean, even Black Lives Matter groups have been caught up a lot of misappropriation issues. Down in Georgia, where I'm from, Stacey Abrams and her campaign had some issues there, some of her nonprofits. And then here we have Kamala Harris, you know, $1 billion blown through all of it. And I think, as Cheryl was saying, I mean, these small dollar donors who don't have much, who gave something to the campaign, and you have Oprah, a billionaire, saying, you know, you donate to the, chip in $5, $10, telling them to give the little that they had to the campaign. And Oprah's turning around making $1 million check off the campaign. I mean, that is a scandal. And I think a lot, especially young people, are realizing this was a farce. Like your favorite influencer, your favorite celebrity who came out in support of Kamala Harris, they were all getting paid off, right? I mean, this was not, they didn't do it out of the kindness of their heart. They didn't do it for free.
I guess these celebrities didn't think that this was a cause worth fighting for. So most of them got their money up front. A scandal that's really making Oprah mad. So here's what Oprah Winfrey had to say when she was confronted about the money that she made off with in this year's election. Watch.
Hey Oprah, good morning. How are you, darling? You looking very good. How do you think the election went?
Not talking about the election, thank you very much.
Oh, is it true that they paid you $1 million for the endorsement for Kamala?
Not true.
Not true, okay.
I was paid nothing, ever.
What do you think about all the celebrities with their mass exodus?
I'm not talking about
Do you think Prince Harry's gonna lose his visa now that Trump's president? Thank you, Oprah.
Now, of course, they don't want to talk about the election now, right? Because they've been embarrassed by a businessman, a guy who still has money left over from his campaign. Meanwhile, you got Oprah Winfrey straight up dismissing the thought that she got paid for appearing at a Harris event. Now, remember, guys, these folks, they're not middle class at all. These celebrities are freaking millionaires. Some of these celebrities are billionaires. You got Oprah Winfrey, she's a billionaire. You got Jay-Z, he's a billionaire. Beyonce is a billionaire. Bill Gates is a billionaire. Oprah Winfrey is just one of the big names that showed up here. But her saying that it's a lie that she was paid is next level gaslighting, yo.
Jordan Belfort's an entrepreneur and the original Wolf of Wall Street. Was the Kamala Harris campaign a little bit of a Ponzi scheme, Jordan?
Well, listen, I don't want to accuse anyone of anything. I don't want to get in trouble, Jess, but it seems more like a giant money laundering operation more than anything. I mean, you take in this massive amount of money, right? I mean, okay, like Oprah, I'm really shocked about Oprah. Like, why does Oprah need $1 million? Like, Oprah's a billionaire, right? I was shocked at all. I thought she was doing it because she believed in it. But here's the thing, you know, there's laws against two things. Number one, you can't make false statements, but also material omissions of fact. They were keeping everybody in the dark about how bad things were. They're just basically, you know, painting this rosy picture when meanwhile, it's like, you know, they're all in quicksand, sinking really fast. And they're trying to get people to give more and more and more, right? And I bet you when this really comes out, you're going to see that there were massively inflated salaries for all the consultants consultants who hired more consultants. Not to mention, and by the way, what were they thinking? Like $450,000 to be on the Sphere. Who's going to vote for her because she's on the Sphere? I mean, someone's going to walk by and say, oh, look at her face. I got to vote for her. I mean, the whole thing is so insane.
A report from the Washington Examiner reveals that Harpo Productions was paid $1 million for the Unite for America event. And if it wasn't clear, Harpo spelled backwards is Oprah. It's her production company. So is she lying about her not getting paid? Or is this just wordplay? Now, speaking of which, the tune within some Democrats may have actually changed. Before this win, people were calling Trump all kinds of names. So here's the deal, guys. Not all the country is stupid enough to believe whatever's on TV, right? Nor do they all instantly believe that celebrities have a say. Who's actually listening to Taylor Swift for political guidance? I'm not, because there's a fine line between being informed and being influenced. Are you guys listening to J-Lo for political advice? Yeah, I didn't think so either. I know that a lot of you guys watching this show right now are pretty informed. You're not easily influenced with glitz and glamour. This is something that our country desperately needs at this time. But what do you guys think about this? Are any of you guys planning on sending money to Kamala Harris's campaign anytime soon? Y'all let me know down below. She should probably get in touch with some of these stars to get them to give some of that money back. What do y'all think? Because most of them are now crying on TV that Trump's the president. And it's crystal clear that these left-leaning networks are still hung up on the lies that have been spread throughout this presidential race. It's exactly the same reason as to why Dana tried so hard to get Congressman Jordan in a gotcha moment. But of course, it never came.
Trump has repeatedly threatened to prosecute Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, Liz Cheney, Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, General Mark Milley, Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, New York AG Letitia James, and that's just some of the people he has talked about. Do you support him using the Justice Department to go after the people who disagree?
He didn't do it his first term. What I support is stopping.
Right, but this is a second term.
What I support is stopping this lawfare, stopping this political targeting, political cases. We all know the Fonnie Willis case, the Alvin Bragg case, and the Jack Smith cases were all driven by politics. The American people understood it. That's why they had this overwhelming win. One of the reasons this overwhelming win for President Trump. So I'm against the retribution. I'm against the Justice Department saying if you're a mom and dad showing up at a school board meeting, we're going to investigate you. I'm against the FBI putting together a memorandum at the Richmond field office which said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist.
So I just want to...
We want all that to stop.
I just want to put a button on this. So what you are saying is that all of the times that President Trump said so many things about people that he promised that he would go after them and prosecute them, you were going to encourage him not to do that?
Well, all I know is what he didn't do. That.
I know, but we're
talking
talking
about lock her up. You know, he talked about his opponent in 2016, Secretary Clinton, talked about lock her up. He didn't do that. He didn't go. But the Democrats went after him.
I know, but
Now I get it. I mean, these people are afraid. Trump had all the opportunities to go after Hillary Clinton, but he didn't. Even though he famously had a mic drop moment with him saying that he'd put her in jail if elected, which shows that the president is not out for revenge. He could have easily gone after political rivals during his term, but he didn't. And this idea that he would do it in his second term is baseless. Now, what Dana Bash is doing here is called projecting. It's the left that has politically prosecuted Donald Trump. It's the left that has targeted him legally right as he announced his presidential run. She's trying so hard just to make him look like this vengeful politician. But as far as we know, guys, the only anger that we've seen from him were mean tweets. Yet she wants this entire narrative that was built in the past to be brought to the future, which is typical Democrat gaslighting. Something that Jim Jordan wasn't having at all. Watch.
Forward.
I don't
Since
think,
then,
I don't
he has
think
said
any,
many
I don't
times.
think any of that's going to happen because we're the party who's against political prosecution. We're the party who's against going after your opponents using lawfare. In fact, I think this is one of the issues that the
So it was just a
said,
campaign rhetoric? It wasn't real?
Well, I think he's pointing out what's going on. The retribution. Actually, Liz Cheney on January 6th went after President Trump, said things that weren't accurate, I think, in their report. The other individuals he's talked about have been part of this retribution going after President Trump. Never forget, it started clear back before he was in office. They spied on his campaign in 2016.
I know, but I am not talking about...
For 8 years, they've been going after President
He
Trump.
won. He won.
He sure did. He won big.
That smirk on Jordan was exactly what Dana Bash didn't want to see. And let's be clear, guys. Candidates say all kinds of things when they're campaigning. They do that to get our votes. And like he said, President Donald Trump talked about putting Hillary Clinton in jail, something that he never did, even though Clinton kept calling him an illegitimate president.
Another alarming obliteration of presidential and democratic norms.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president who got illegitimate foreign help. He knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did. You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you. I know that he knows that this wasn't on the level.
Why do you think the president is going to such great lengths to essentially prove that he beat you?
Because he knows he didn't. He knows he's an illegitimate president. I do think that he knows that he's an illegitimate president.
So in terms of track record, Trump hasn't gone after his rivals after winning. The same cannot be said for the left, though. And speaking of the left, Dana Bash was also left speechless when she talked to Bernie Sanders. Did you guys catch that one? The senators made waves recently after criticizing the Democratic Party, basically saying the truth out loud, something that those within the far left were not happy with. Watch.
I want to start with the scathing response that you gave after the Democrats lost, Kamala Harris lost pretty big. You said the Democrats abandoned the working class. The chairman of the DNC called it straight up BS and said Joe Biden is the most pro-worker president of my lifetime. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi said she disagreed with you. She added, quote, Bernie Sanders has not won. Do you stand by what you said?
Oh, absolutely. Look, Joe Biden is a friend of mine. I've been proud to work with him on an agenda which has been very strongly in favor of the working class. Biden promised to be the most progressive president since FDR in many ways on domestic issues. I think he kept his word. But here is the reality. The working class of this country is angry, and they have a reason to be angry. We are living in an economy today, Donna, where the people on top are doing phenomenally well, while 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. 25% of elderly people are trying to get by on $15,000 a year or less. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth, and parents all over this country worry that their kids may have a lower standard of living than they do. That is the economic reality.
When even Bernie Sanders is going against his own party, you know it's over. Which brings me to Dana Bash from CNN completely losing her mind as Jim Jordan asked a very important question. There is a huge difference in voter count when you look back on 2020. So where did all those Democrats go? Watch.
There were all kinds of concerns with how the 2020 election was carried out. But
there was absolutely
the biggest question Democrats need to be asking, what happened to the 10 million voters that Joe Biden got that didn't come out for Kamala Harris? A bunch of them, President Trump's numbers were right up where they were in 2020, but the Democrats were much lower. I think it's because they had no vision, no record to run on, and they just wanted to call everyone names.
You gotta ask, did voters just choose not to vote? Or did those voters just not even exist in the first place? But of course, they can make the case that mail-in votes were very popular during this time. Okay, sure, whatever. But you can see where Dana Bash clearly loses the conversation. Well, guys, the great wealth transfer is in full effect. And, you know, whether it's Donald Trump that ends up winning the election or if it's Kamala Harris, oh God, we're in a world of a pickle, as my grandfather would say. Our freedoms are being stolen, guys. Credit card companies are out to get us. And if you don't understand the game, well, you end up getting played by the game. Now, if you're anything like me, guys, you know, you were probably out of shape, maybe in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, and just feeling like the system is just completely taking advantage of you. I remember for a long time, I could rarely ever get any time to spend with my wife. And it's kind of funny because where I used to work with a lot of married men. And a lot of those married men would always complain about their spouses as if they really just didn't even like their spouses, which is sounding like a pretty horrible situation. But that was the case for many of them. They didn't like who they were married to. But I was different. Anyway, through trial and error and through a lot of pain, I figured out how to gain freedom and also lose a lot of weight and actually get in shape. And guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, that was a game changer. To no longer be living paycheck to paycheck, figuring out how to get the credit cards to pay me, the power of a strong credit score. I pay thousands of dollars less per year for the same house as my neighbor just because my credit is better than his is. And this is not to brag. I mean, but this is the truth. The banks are literally taking advantage of the poor. It's like the people who can least afford it, they're charging the poor what is like unofficially called a poor tax or a tax on the poor. I mean, I'm now at a point where, you know, like, number one, I don't pay for credit cards. In fact, credit card companies pay me to use their cards. And I figured out how to build a lifestyle that is just ultimately very, very healthy. I lost a tremendous amount of weight and I put on a lot of muscle. But when I was struggling, I wish I knew people who knew these things. So anyway, I decided to create a community of like-minded people who are also interested, just like me, in living better. So if you guys want to join my community, it's called the Liberty Pursuit Network. It is brand new. Come on over. I'd love to have you guys and join like-minded people. Be positively motivated by others who are also on the same pursuit. So I'm going to leave a link for you guys so you can join me over on the Life Pursuit Network in the description down below this video. So check it out, guys, and let's not be a victim of this great wealth transfer that is taking place right now.